My family dumped all my belongings on the lawn at 7 a.m. and thought I'd just leave quietly. Reddit stories. Neighbors watched from their porches while my parents filmed, and my dad destroyed my property like it was a performance. They didn't realize I'd been preparing for that moment for years. Hi, I'm Brian, 27, and last Thursday at exactly 7 a.m. my entire neighborhood watched my family kick me out of the house like they were hosting some kind of suburban purge with free admission. Third shift is already hell. You get home when the sun's too bright, your brain's too fried, and your body's too sore for anything except unconsciousness. What you don't expect is to turn onto your street and see your entire life arranged on the front lawn like a yard sale curated by psychopaths. My 2009 Silverado, 1 dent, 2 warning lights, and 3 more payments left, rolled to a stop in front of what looked like the aftermath of a tornado that targeted only my belongings. Clothes stuffed into trash bags. My weights stacked like a CrossFit display. My gaming chair leaning tragically to one side like it had accepted its fate. Even my protein powder was out there, sunbathing like it didn't have a shelf life. And front and center was my mom, Georgina, standing in her bathrobe and slippers, phone out, recording everything like she was filming a nature documentary about a wounded animal being removed from its habitat. Behind her, my brother Glenn strutted out of the garage with all the smug energy of a man who got a bachelor's degree and never shut up about it. He kicked my gym bag into the street. Then came the grand finale, my dad, Arnold, storming out with my Xbox in hand. He looked at it like it represented every disappointment he'd ever felt, then smashed it against the garage door like he was trying out for the Olympics of pettiness. Plastic flew everywhere. I sat in my truck for 10 seconds. Just processing. The Hendersons were on their porch with coffee like they bought tickets. Old man Richard was checking his mailbox at 7 a.m., a man who normally checks it once a week. It was a whole neighborhood event. Georgina started marching toward my truck, yelling about how I'm a leech, a vampire, a grown man living in her basement, how this was her house and she was done. Glenn chimed in about the Wi-Fi password being changed, calling me a loser. Arnold stood with his arms crossed like he just won Father of the Year by committing property destruction. I didn't say a word. Not one. I just got out, loaded my things into the bed of my truck, one bag, one broken piece, one insult at a time. My hands were shaking, not with sadness, not humiliation. Pure, focused fury. 20 minutes later, everything I owned was in the truck bed. I walked straight up to the 3 of them, Georgina recording, Glenn smirking, Arnold glaring, and I made eye contact with each one. Then I told them, I hope you all sleep good tonight. Because in about a week, none of you are going to sleep at all. Then I peeled out of the driveway while the neighbors pretended not to be entertained. And here's the part they didn't know. I'd been preparing for this moment for 3 years. Here's what my family never understood about me. Quiet doesn't mean passive. Calm doesn't mean harmless. And being the disappointment doesn't mean I'm stupid. Because 3 years before they dumped my life onto the lawn like trash day with commentary, I already knew the eviction was coming. Maybe not the exact dramatic circus performance, but the sentiment. The hostility? The shame? The constant under-the-breath comparisons to my brother Glenn? Oh, I saw that writing on the wall before they even bought the paint. It started when I was 23. My grandfather died and left me $40,000. Not enough to retire, but enough to change the trajectory of a broke young adult. My parents, Arnold and Georgina, were 3 months behind on their mortgage. The bank had already started sending foreclosure warnings. The construction business Arnold clung to like it was a personality trait had tanked during COVID, and they were drowning. So I stepped in. I wrote them a check for $35,000. I didn't just hand it over either. I sat at the kitchen table with both of them and said, I'll help, but we need paperwork. Something official. Something documented. And Arnold nodded, said absolutely, he'd draw the papers up himself, no problem. Georgina cried and called me her hero. They promised they'd never forget what I did. They forgot faster than they shredded my Xbox. The paperwork never appeared. I asked twice. Arnold told me to stop being paranoid. This was family stuff. And because I was young, loyal, and incredibly stupid, I let it go. In exchange, I became the basement troll. The embarrassment. The adult child who wasn't going anywhere. Meanwhile, Glenn, 29, bachelor's degree, marketing job, moved out at 28, was the golden child. When he lived at home, it was saving money smartly. When I lived at home, it was sucking them dry. Difference? Glenn wore button-downs. I wore hoodies. That's literally it. So I started planning. Step 1. Save every dollar I could. Third shift pays better if you're willing to sacrifice sleep and sanity. I was. Step 2. Keep receipts. Every bill they asked me to cover, every contribution, every cash transfer. I kept it all. Step 3. Lawyer up quietly. For $500, I had a proper loan contract drawn up. Sent it certified mail. They signed it without reading it. Returned it. Legally binding. No takebacks. Step 4. Find my own apartment. Sign the lease. Wait for the eruption. I didn't expect the eruption to include neighbors sipping coffee like it was a parade, but whatever. Life has flavor sometimes. That morning, after I left the street with my belongings shaking in the truck bed, I drove straight to my new apartment. The deposit was paid. Keys ready. I unloaded, showered, slept 8 hours for the first time in months. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, nothing. Day 3, Georgina called once, left no voicemail. Day 4, Glenn texted. Wi-Fi password is family1SD 2024. With a laughing emoji. Cute. Day 7? 83 messages. Voicemails. Missed calls. Panic texts from all 3 of them. My father's voice cracking on voicemail. My mother crying like I'd been kidnapped. Glenn asking, Bro, what did you do? What did I do? Legally, properly, and with full documentation. I reminded them that the house they flaunted for years wasn't entirely theirs anymore. Because the contract they signed put me in a position they never imagined. I wasn't the failure in the basement. I was a creditor. And creditors get paid. One way or another. By the time Saturday rolled around, the famous day 7, I had finished my morning coffee, gone to the gym, showered, and settled into my new couch when my phone buzzed again. 83 messages. Georgina. Call me now. Brian, this is serious. Where are you? Your father is losing his mind. Stop ignoring us. Arnold. Call me immediately. This needs to stop. Call me now or I'm calling the police. Glenn. Dude, what did you do? Mom is freaking out. Dad is livid. What did you file? I scrolled through all 83 messages while eating eggs and toast like it was a morning newspaper. Then, because I'm a grown adult with boundaries and also petty down to the cellular level, I set my phone on silent and took a nap. When I woke up, I decided it was time to play the next card. At 2 p.m., I texted Arnold back. What's the emergency? He called instantly. No hello. No breath. Just panic. Brian, we have a big problem. The bank contacted us. Something about a claim on our property. Something you filed. What the hell is this? What did you do? I said very calmly. I exercised my legal rights. What rights? The ones you signed for. I said. Silence. Then. You tricked us. No. I said. I legally documented the $35,000 loan you promised to document, and never did. Arnold tried a different tone, soft, fatherly, trying to slip into nostalgia like it was a warm bath. Son, we're family. You don't sue family. And there it was. The magic phrase manipulators love. Family. I told him. You threw my life on the lawn and smashed my Xbox in front of neighbors. That was a mistake. Glenn got carried away. You carried my Xbox. I corrected. Directly into the garage door. He huffed. We need to meet in person. Not on the phone. This is too important. Fine, I said. My apartment. Not your house. 2 hours later they arrived. Georgina looked like she aged 10 years in a week, hair messy, eyes swollen, the vibe of a woman who had not slept since Tuesday. Arnold looked angry but controlled, like he rehearsed being calm in the car. They sat on my couch. They didn't look around. Didn't comment on the apartment. Didn't ask if I was okay. Georgina started with sniffles. We never meant to hurt you. We just wanted you to be independent. Throwing me out was tough love, Arnold added. Tough love, I repeated. With an audience? Georgina crushed a tissue in her hand. We didn't think the neighbors would watch. They absolutely thought the neighbors would watch. I let them talk. Let them explain. Let them rewrite history in real time. Then Arnold finally got to the real reason they were there. The house, he said slowly. There's been a complication. Because of whatever you filed. No, whatever, I said. The legally signed contract for the $35,000 loan. Arnold rubbed his forehead. We can't pay that back right now. That's not my problem, I said, mirroring the exact tone he used when I once asked him to co-sign a credit union loan and he told me to man up. Funny how those lines hit different on the return trip. Georgina started crying harder. You're going to make us lose the house. No, I said. You made choices. I made a contract. But we're your parents. And I was your son when you humiliated me. I said. What's your point? There was a long, thick silence. Then Arnold leaned forward. What do you want? Just tell us. What will make this go away? Oh. There it was. The thing I'd been waiting for. What I want, I said, is exactly what I'm owed. He stared. Georgina whispered. You're destroying our family. I stood. No. I'm simply taking back what I gave. The destroying part? That started years ago. They left defeated, shaken, whispering to each other all the way down the hall like the world had turned upside down. And the thing is? It had. Just not for me. Sunday morning, I woke up to 12 missed calls, 5 texts from Glenn, and 1 message from an unknown number that said, We need to talk. Right now. Judging by the grammatical aggression, I assumed it was Georgina using Arnold's phone because she'd cried herself hoarse on her own. I ignored all of it. Instead, I made pancakes. Because nothing fuels righteous vindication like butter and carbs. Around noon, Glenn showed up unannounced. He didn't knock gently either, he hammered on my door like he was collecting a medieval debt. When I opened it, he stormed in without waiting, already fuming. What the hell is wrong with you? Good afternoon, I said. Water? Tea? Emotional stability? This isn't funny, he snapped. Mom is losing it. Dad hasn't slept. Isla's freaking out. And I have to explain to everyone why my brother is trying to take our parents' house. I raised an eyebrow. Your parents? He froze. He knew he'd messed up phrasing. You could see the regret hit his face like a badly thrown baseball. But he doubled down. They gave us that house. No, I corrected. I saved that house. Glenn rolled his eyes like factual history was an inconvenience. That was forever ago. For years, I reminded him. Not exactly ancient civilization. He threw his hands up. You lived there rent-free. I laughed. Loudly. $600 a month for 4 years, I said. You want to do the math on that out loud? Because, spoiler, it doesn't equal $35,000 plus interest. Glenn's jaw tightened. That money wasn't meant to be a loan, he said. It was family helping family. Funny, I said. That logic seems to only apply when they want something from me. He stepped closer, trying to loom, but Glenn is the height of a countertop, so the intimidation factor was limited. Brian. Be real. You're doing this because you're jealous. Of what? I asked. Your marketing job? Your Wi-Fi password jokes? Your lifelong ability to skate past consequences? He sputtered, which is Glenn's natural reaction to being confronted with reality. Then he went for the nuclear button, the guilt tactic. You're going to ruin Mom and Dad's lives. No, I said. I'm going to collect a debt. Their lives ruined themselves. He started pacing my living room like a man who watched one TED Talk about conflict resolution and was trying to improvise therapy. You don't understand, he said. Isla and I were planning to buy the house next year. At a family discount. You're blowing up everything. Ah. There it was. This wasn't about Mom. Or Dad. Or family unity. This was about Glenn's future real estate discount. I leaned back on the counter and let him talk himself into a hole. We've been saving for years, he said. Dad promised. They said the house would stay in the family. And now you're just, what, forcing a sale? Not forcing, I said. Legally obligating. Glenn glared. You're a selfish jerk. And you're a grown man who kicked my gym bag into the street, I said. So let's not play moral chess. He sputtered again. It's his default setting. Okay, he said finally. Tell me what you want. What will make you stop? I stared at him. This was the moment. The reason I'd been quiet for years. The reason I stayed in that basement stacking paychecks and documents instead of losing my mind. So when I answered, my voice was steady. I want exactly what I'm owed. Nothing less. Glenn blinked. That's it? That's it? He stared at me, processing the part he hated, that I wasn't bluffing. That I wasn't emotional. That I wasn't going to back down. He left without another word. And for the first time since this whole mess began, my apartment felt peaceful. Not quiet. Peaceful. A few hours later, my phone vibrated again. A conference call request from both lawyers. And that's when things really started moving. The joint lawyer call was scheduled for Wednesday at 3 p.m. I showed up early, laptop open, documents ready, iced coffee in hand. Because if I was going to dismantle my family's illusions, I wanted to be hydrated. My lawyer, Marcus, calm, methodical, the type of man who reads contracts for fun, logged in first. Then the opposing screen lit up. Arnold. Georgina. Their lawyer, a thin man with stressed eyebrows. And unexpectedly, Glenn. He sat behind them like an emotional support parrot. The call began. Their lawyer started with a tone that implied he believed he could guilt-trip me through legal Zoom. Brian, I'm sure we can resolve this amicably. Marcus immediately cut him off. We're not here for sentiment. We're here to discuss a valid contractual lien. Their lawyer looked irritated, which delighted me. He cleared his throat. We believe the contract may not be enforceable due to coercion at the time of signing. Marcus leaned in slightly. Coercion? You mean the certified mail you returned with signatures? Or the fact that the money had been given weeks prior to signing, eliminating any possibility of duress? Their lawyer blinked. Score, Marcus 1, opposing counsel 0. Arnold jumped in, red-faced already. We didn't think it meant anything. It was just paperwork. Marcus smiled the exact smile of a man hearing his opponents dig their own grave. So your argument, he said, is that you knowingly signed a legal document without reading it and now want to dismiss it based on your own negligence? Silence. Georgina sniffled dramatically. We thought, family. Marcus didn't blink. Courts do not operate on family. They operate on contracts. Score, Marcus 2. Their lawyer regained composure. Regardless, forcing a sale is extreme. Surely Brian doesn't want to displace his parents? Marcus said. Brian wants repayment of $35,000 plus 4 years of accrued interest. Given your client's admission they cannot pay, sale is the remaining option. Georgina burst into tears. Arnold rubbed his forehead. Glenn whispered something behind them, likely, make it stop, Dad. Then Arnold looked directly into the camera, and for the first time, he didn't sound angry. He sounded afraid. What will it take for you to drop this? Marcus glanced at me. This was my line, not his. I spoke clearly. I'm not dropping it. I want one of the two contractually agreed outcomes, repayment or sale. Georgina gasped like I'd confessed to arson. Arnold's anger snapped back. You're punishing us. No, I said. I'm collecting what I'm owed. If I wanted to punish you, I'd ask the judge to review the conditions under which you publicly evicted me while holding a legal debt to me. Even Marcus raised an eyebrow slightly. He hadn't expected me to go for the throat. Their lawyer exhaled slowly, realizing what I'd just implied. If this went to court, their humiliation becomes a matter of public record. Arnold looked ready to flip a table. Georgina sobbed louder, perhaps hoping emotional noise could be used as legal leverage. Glenn just stared at me, silent, realizing, finally, that the story they built, that I was the family failure, could not survive facts. The call wrapped with no middle ground found. Marcus emailed me after. They'll break. Give it a week. He was wrong. It took 4 days. Saturday morning, I got an email with a scanned signature. Arnold and Georgina agreed to list the property for sale within 14 days. Proceeds to satisfy mortgage, then lien to Brian, remainder to sellers. They had folded completely. Not because they understood, but because they had no other move. At 2:17 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Georgina. I hope you're happy. We can't sleep. We can't eat. Are you proud of what you've done to this family? I didn't respond. Mostly because I was, in fact, eating very delicious takeout, and the irony felt poetic. That night, the house went on the market. By Sunday morning, it already had 3 showings. And by Wednesday, it had an offer. A strong one. High enough that after mortgage payoff and the lien, Arnold and Georgina would still walk with about $90,000. Not enough for a new house. More than enough for a nice apartment, and a long, quiet reflection. As for me? Marcus estimates my payout will be around $64,700. After years of being their disappointment? Their burden? Their embarrassment? I'm ending this chapter with a clean apartment, a solid job, a better truck fund, $64,000. Peace. But the real finale? The message Glenn sent last night at 1:42 a.m. I think you were right. I just wish it didn't have to end like this. I didn't answer. Some things don't need responses. Some lessons are learned in silence. And some people don't sleep until they understand the weight of what they stole. You tell me when you want the true final epilogue. It's brutal, quiet, and exactly what this story deserves. The house hit the market on a Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, the for sale sign was hammered into the lawn, the same lawn where they tossed my clothes like confetti and smashed my Xbox like it was a ritual sacrifice. The Hendersons were already outside watching the realtor install the lockbox. Richard, mailbox at 7 a.m., shuffled out too, pretending to water a patch of grass that was unmistakably dead. It was poetic. I wasn't there, but the neighbor 2 doors down, Mia, sent me a picture with the caption, "Thought you'd want the view, smiley face." And oh, I did. The next 48 hours were chaos on their end. I know this because my phone turned into a panic museum. First came Georgina. 10:14 a.m. Brian, the realtor says strangers will be walking through our home. Can you please undo this? 10:22 a.m. Please answer me. I'm begging you. 11:03 a.m. I haven't slept in days. I feel sick. Please don't do this. Then Arnold. 1:17 p.m. We're fielding showings. This is humiliating. We raised you. 1:20 p.m. Your mother is crying again. 1:21 p.m. Call me. And then Glenn. 8:04 p.m. Isla says she won't move in once my parents leave. Because The foundation of that house is bad karma. This is literally your fault. I didn't reply to any of them. I just went about my day, went to work, came home, made dinner, slept amazingly. When you grow up in a house where emotional meltdowns are used like currency, silence is freedom. 3 days later, the house had 3 offers. By day 5, one of them was above asking. On day 6, my lawyer called. They accepted the high offer. Closing in roughly 21 days. I thanked him. Hung up. 5 minutes later, Georgina called me. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail anyway, sobbing. Brian, please talk to me. I can't eat, I can't sleep, Arnold can't breathe right. We might have to move into an apartment. I can't do this at my age. You're punishing us. I waited until the voicemail finished. Then played it again. Not because I enjoyed her pain, but because it reminded me why I had stopped bending until I snapped. 2 days later, they had their final open house. Mia texted me a play-by-play. 11:12 a.m. Your mom is cleaning the porch and crying at the same time. 11:14 a.m. Your dad is yelling at the realtor about idiots not taking their shoes off. 11:21 a.m. Glenn is sitting on the porch steps looking like he aged 40 years. 11:22 a.m. Oh God, he's crying into his hands. Like full-on crying. I didn't ask her to exaggerate, she wasn't the type. That same night, Glenn sent the message. Not the angry ones. Not the blaming ones. A quiet one. 1:42 a.m. I think you were right. I just wish it didn't have to end this way. Not even manipulation. Just recognition. And somehow, that hit harder than the insults. Because it meant reality had finally caught up to him. But even then, I didn't respond. Because recognition isn't the same as accountability. And the part that shook them the most wasn't the money. It wasn't the sale. It wasn't losing the house they thought they'd someday hand to Glenn and Isla like a family heirloom. The part that broke them was realizing I didn't need them. Not for love. Not for approval. Not for permission. Not even for closure. They had built their entire identity on being the ones holding power. They never expected the day I'd simply walk away and take their safety net with me. The house went under contract faster than anyone expected, 9 days from listing to signed agreement. 9. Georgina called it a premature death. Arnold called it a robbery. Glenn called it the apocalypse. I called it Wednesday. My lawyer, Marcus, emailed me the breakdown. Purchase price. Remaining mortgage. Closing costs. My lien payout. Projected in bold at the bottom. Estimated distribution to Brian, $64,782. 14. I looked at that number for a long time. Not because of the money, though 64 grand slaps, but because I realized something more disturbing. This entire disaster could have been avoided with 1 ounce of respect years ago. 1 conversation. 1 acknowledgement. 1 thank you. But my family never did acknowledgement. They did denial. They did entitlement. They did performance. And now their performance had an audience they couldn't mute. Thursday afternoon, I got a text from Mia again. Neighbor update. Your mom is pacing the yard with a trash bag picking up leaves before the inspection. It's windy. They keep blowing away. She looks like she's fighting God. A second text followed. Your dad is yelling at a bush. A third. Glenn is sitting in his car with the engine off, staring at the dashboard. Haven't seen him blink in a while. I pictured it perfectly. The proud family facade cracking. The perfect lawn becoming someone else's problem. Their future slipping into paperwork and signatures they never thought would matter. Meanwhile, my life was, quietly, getting better. My apartment was set up. My sleep schedule was stabilizing. My stress was evaporating. For the first time in years, I could breathe. But on their side? Panic was entering its final stage. Friday morning, Georgina called me 6 times before 8 a.m. a.m. I ignored all of them. At 8:13, she left a voicemail, voice trembling, frantic. Brian, honey, please, please, don't do this. We made mistakes, but this is too much. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof. Glenn isn't talking to us. Isla left him. She left him. The whole family is in chaos. Please call me back. I'm begging you. I sat with that message for a moment. And here's the raw truth. I didn't feel triumphant. Not excited. Not gleeful. Not vindictive. I felt nothing. Their pain wasn't my victory. Their suffering wasn't my closure. My closure was simple. They no longer had the power to hurt me. And that alone was enough. At 11 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Glenn. A selfie. He was sitting alone in his apartment. Well, Isla's old apartment. Eyes red, hair messy, the background a storm of half-packed boxes. Caption. You ruined everything. 2 hours later, another text. She says she left because I never saw things clearly. That I was cruel to you. That I sounded exactly like Dad. I hate this. Why did it have to blow up like this? I didn't respond. Because the truth he didn't want to face was simple. I hadn't destroyed anything. I'd only stopped holding it together. By evening, the entire extended family had opinions. Aunts calling me cold. Cousins messaging me guilt paragraphs. Catherine declaring I'd abandoned tradition. Some uncle I barely remembered accusing me of being infected by Western individualism. I muted every group chat. Saturday, Arnold himself showed up at my apartment. Not banging. Not yelling. Just a single knock. I opened the door to find him standing there, defeated. He looked smaller. Older. Like the weight of reality had settled onto his shoulders and refused to get off. He asked quietly, "Can we talk?" I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. He didn't argue. Didn't posture. Didn't accuse. Instead, he asked one question. "Did we really treat you that badly?" I looked at him for a long time. Then I said, "You didn't treat me at all." He swallowed hard. "I don't know how to fix this," he admitted. "You can't," I said. He nodded once, eyes wet, then walked away without another word. That night, Glenn sent one final text. "I think I finally get it. I'm sorry. For real this time. I don't expect an answer." I didn't send one. Some apologies are for the person giving them, not the one receiving. And some stories don't end with reconciliation. They end with release. Moving day. Not mine, theirs. 2 weeks after the sign went up, 1 week after the inspection, 3 days after the contract was finalized. I didn't plan to drive past the house. I genuinely didn't. But my GPS took me down the old road on the way to the gym, and there it was. My childhood home. The lawn flattened from the moving van's tires. The garage open. Boxes stacked on the driveway. Arnold hunched over a dolly. Georgina sitting on the porch steps, face red from crying. Glenn pacing the yard with the look of someone trying to negotiate with fate itself. A sold banner hung crooked across the realtor sign. I slowed the truck, not enough to be obvious, just enough to see. None of them noticed me. They were too busy losing everything. Watching them from the road felt unreal, like seeing some alternate universe where my family was just people. Tired. Breaking. Exposed. No audience. No righteous speeches. No superiority. Just consequences finally catching up. And for a second, only a second, I felt something shift in my chest. Not guilt. Not pity. Recognition. This was the first time in my life they were facing the kind of uncertainty they spent years mocking me for. I drove on. At the gym, I lifted heavier than usual. My body felt steady, grounded. I wasn't thinking about revenge or victory or any of the noise the internet loves. I was thinking about something much simpler. Peace. I had it. They didn't. And for once, that imbalance wasn't my burden to fix. That night, I got 3 messages. First, from Georgina. Brian, we're leaving the house tomorrow. I don't know what to say. I hope someday we can talk again. I miss you. Second, from Arnold. The mover scratched the new owner's floor. Figures. Nothing ever goes cleanly these days. I hope you're satisfied. Third, from Glenn. I'm moving back in with Mom and Dad at the apartment. We only got a 2-bedroom. I'm sleeping in the dining room. Wild, huh? I didn't respond to any of them. Sunday morning, Marcus texted. Closing scheduled. Your check ready for pickup Tuesday. Tuesday came. I walked into the law office. Signed 2 forms. Confirmed my bank info. Marcus handed me a crisp envelope. It weighed basically nothing. But inside? Everything. Not the money. The closure. I stepped outside, sunlight hitting my face, and for the first time in a long, long time, I felt free. Nobody waiting to demand rent. Nobody calling me a parasite. Nobody throwing my belongings into the street. Nobody treating me like the family disappointment. Just me. My truck. My apartment. My work. My life. Whole. Quiet. Mine. I went home, set the envelope on my kitchen counter, made myself dinner, and sat alone in total silence. It felt good. Not triumphant. Not cruel. Just good. Later that night, I got one final voicemail from Arnold. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He didn't guilt trip. He just said, well, we're out. Apartment's smaller than I expected. Should have listened to you about some things. Guess we all learn lessons eventually. And then he hung up. No request for forgiveness. No plea for reconciliation. No attempt to pull me back into the old roles. Just an exhausted man facing the consequences of his own choices. I saved the voicemail. Not out of sentiment, out of clarity. Because that was the real ending. Not the house sale. Not the money. Not the apologies. Not the fallout. The real ending was simple. I stopped being the family's safety net. And once I stopped catching them, they finally hit the ground they'd been pretending didn't exist. For the first time in my life, I'm not their backup plan. I'm just Brian. Independent. Unbothered. And finally, free. 3 days after the closing, when the dust had finally settled, financially, emotionally, geographically, I woke up to something I hadn't experienced in months. Silence. Not vibrating notifications silence. Not angry voicemails silence. Not pointed family eyes out silence. Real silence. The kind where your brain finally stops waiting for the next hit. No panic texts from Georgina. No guilt paragraphs from Arnold. No rage essays from Glenn. No distant cousins asking me to reflect on my choices. Just peace. I made coffee. Stood on my balcony. Watched the sunrise. And for the first time in a very long time, I realized something important. I had absolutely no idea what to do next. Not because I was lost, but because I was free. When you grow up in a family where you're constantly blamed, constantly compared, constantly undervalued, you don't plan your life. You survive it. Now I didn't have to survive anymore. And that left a weird little emotional vacuum. I wanted to fill it with something real. So, I started with the simplest thing. I cleaned. Not the frantic kind of cleaning you do when guests are coming over or when you're spiraling emotionally. Just quiet, methodical resetting. New vacuum lines in the carpet. Bedroom windows open for fresh air. Playlist on low. Around noon, I got an unexpected text. Not from family. From Mia. You free? Got something you should see. Curiosity 1. I drove to the old neighborhood, not to the house, just the street, and found Mia standing on the sidewalk holding her phone like it was radioactive. She waved me over. You're not gonna believe this, she said. I braced myself. New gossip? New disaster? New complaint from Richard about imaginary property values? Nope. She handed me her phone. Playing on the screen was a video. A neighborhood Facebook live stream. From Catherine. My jaw clenched automatically, until I realized what she was doing. She was standing in front of my parents' now empty house, giving a speech. A loud, dramatic, self-righteous speech. About family downfall. About betrayal. About the danger of selfishness. Except, she wasn't talking about me. She was calling out Arnold and Georgina. Specifically. By name. They threw him out. She was saying into the camera. They humiliated him publicly. They accepted his money and denied it for years. They treated him like a problem, then acted shocked when consequences came. This isn't Brian's shame. This is theirs. I blinked. Mia said. 12 people shared it already. Catherine kept going. And going. And going. Apparently Georgina had tried to spin a fresh narrative to salvage her reputation at book club, and Catherine of all people snapped. It was messy. It was dramatic. It was honestly a little bit hilarious. And it was the first time anyone in that family, not counting Glenn's late-stage meltdown, had said anything publicly in my defense. I handed the phone back. Mia smirked. Karma's efficient this week. I didn't reply right away. Because truthfully, that video didn't make me feel vindicated. It just made me feel done. Like the universe was tying up loose ends I didn't care about anymore. Come on, Mia said. Let's get lunch. My treat. You look like you need carbs. I did. So we went. A diner. Eggs. Toast. Hash browns. A completely normal meal after a completely abnormal month. Somewhere between breakfast potatoes and refilling our coffees, Mia asked. Do you think you'll ever talk to them again? I didn't dramatize it. Didn't pretend to ponder deeply. I just said, I think I'll talk to them if they ever decide to be different people. But I'm not waiting for that. She nodded. That's healthy. Healthy. Not a word anyone in my old house ever used for me. When I got home later that afternoon, I checked the voicemail I'd ignored earlier. It was from an unknown number. But the voice was unmistakable. Glenn. He sounded calmer than usual. Deflated but not angry. Hey. I'm not calling to fight. I'm trying to figure out who I am now that I'm not the golden child. Weird feeling. I think I owe you more than an apology. But I also think you need space. I get that now. If you ever want to talk, I'll be here. If not, I'll still understand. Hope you're doing okay. I saved the voicemail. Not because it healed anything, but because it was the first time he had talked to me instead of at me. That evening, I sat on my couch, in my apartment, in my quiet life, and realized something huge. I wasn't angry anymore. Not numb. Not vengeful. Not waiting for someone else to screw up. Just free. Really, truly, peacefully free. I didn't need an ending with fireworks. I didn't need revenge anymore. I'd gotten something better. My life back. 2 weeks after the closing, when the chaos had finally dimmed into background noise, I woke up to an inbox that wasn't full of family guilt, screaming voicemails, or Facebook shaming. Just bills, spam, and a coupon for 20% off tires. Bliss. I went to work. A normal shift. No existential dread in the break room. No checking my phone every hour bracing for emotional shrapnel. I clocked out at 6:58 a.m. Stepped into the cold morning air, and realized something almost frightening. My life was quiet. And for someone who'd lived in constant emotional turbulence for a decade, silence felt like learning to breathe all over again. That Saturday, I picked up the check, $64, $782. 14. Marcus shook my hand and said, You handled this better than most people. I told him he didn't see the version of me 5 months ago. He laughed and handed me a folder. Outside, I sat in my truck a long moment staring at that amount. Not because it was dramatic, but because it meant something no apology ever could. My life was finally mine. I deposited the check. Paid off my credit card. Paid off my truck. Opened a high-yield savings account. Booked a solo weekend trip I never would have allowed myself before. I didn't tell anyone. That evening, I got one new voicemail. Not angry. Not frantic. Just tired. Arnold. We're in the apartment now. Smaller than I thought. Glenn's miserable. Your mom's adjusting. I know you don't want contact. But I want you to know. Losing the house wasn't the worst part. The worst part was realizing you never felt like you belonged in it. Long pause. I'm sorry, son. I didn't call back. But I saved the message. Not for sentimental reasons, just as proof that even the people who refused accountability eventually had to face truth when it finally, brutally arrived. Sunday morning, Mia texted. Brunch? I'll drive. My treat. You earned it. We ate pancakes and talked about anything except my family. Plans? Work. Dumb memes. New gym equipment. It felt normal. Undramatic. Stable. Walking back to her car, she bumped my shoulder and said, You know, you're different now. Lighter. I shrugged. Guess cutting weight works outside the gym too. She laughed, but her eyes were warm in a way I hadn't seen before. Later, sitting on my balcony with a beer and a crappy lawn chair, I realized something important. Revenge didn't free me. Distance did. Boundaries did. Growing into someone who didn't need their approval did. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the disappointment. I wasn't the failure. I wasn't the kid in the basement. I was just a man who built himself back up after everyone expected him to stay low. My phone buzzed once that night. Unknown number. A text. I hope you're doing well, Brian. No pressure to respond. Glenn. I didn't reply. But I didn't delete it either. Because forgiveness isn't a requirement. It's an option. One I might consider someday. Just, not today. That night, with the window cracked open and the quiet hum of the city drifting in, I finally felt it. Closure. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just steady. I didn't win. They didn't lose. Life simply reset, without me carrying people who were never willing to carry me. And for the first time in 27 years, I fell asleep in a home where nothing, absolutely nothing, was hanging over me. It felt like peace. It felt like mine. It felt like a beginning.